Welcome back to our Mindset series. Today we're going to be talking about working with the law. Raymond Holliwell, I'm so excited you're here. This is about chapter 3 because today we're tackling one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal development, and that is the law of supply. So if you've been following along, you know that we covered the law of thinking a little while back. Today, we're going to discover how the universe actually provides for all of our needs and why most people are living in artificial scarcity when abundance is actually their natural birthright. So before we dive in, I want to make sure that you're subscribed. So hit that notification bell. We're actually building an amazing community of people who are serious about building a business, but also transforming their lives using these universal principles. So let's go ahead. Let's unlock the secrets of infinite supply. All right, get your notebooks ready. Be ready to write some of this down. Now, we're going to start with a fundamental principle of supply, okay? Raymond Holliwell, and again, the book is titled Working with the Law. This is chapter 3. He starts with a radical statement. There is a supply for every demand. But here's what most people miss. He's not talking about money or material things. He's talking about the infinite creative intelligence of the universe itself. So think about nature for a moment. Does an apple tree worry about producing apples? Does the ocean concern itself with having enough water? Of course not, right? They simply express their nature, and the abundance flows to them naturally. They always have what they need. Now, Holliwell explains that humans are the only creatures who've somehow convinced themselves that scarcity is natural. We've been programmed actually to believe that there's not enough money, not enough time, not enough opportunities. I was just talking to my mom and dad this morning and they said, boy, we wish Sundays were 48 hours long. But it's completely contrary to how the universe actually operates. So here's where he gets really profound, okay? Write this down. He explains that the true source of supply is not your job, it's not your business, it's not even other people. The source is God, the infinite intelligence that created the entire universe. You can use God, you can use the universe, you can use spirit, whatever works in your jargon. But your job, your business, your relationships, these are simply channels through which supply flows. Most people make the mistake of worrying about the channel instead of connecting with the source. They think, what if I lose my job? Or what if this business fails? But Holliwell teaches us that when you're connected to the source constantly, new channels will always appear. He gives the analogy of a river. If one tributary gets blocked, the river doesn't necessarily dry up. It simply finds new ways to flow. The same is true with supply in your life. All right, let's talk about the circulation principle. One of the most powerful concepts in this chapter is what Holliwell calls the circulation principle. He explains that supply, like everything in nature, must circulate to remain healthy and abundant, okay? Think about your circulatory system. If the blood stops flowing, you die, just like that, right? But the same is true with supply. If you hoard, if you grasp, if you try to accumulate out of fear, you actually cut off that flow of supply to yourself. So what he teaches is that giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. But here's the key. You actually have to give first, without attachment to how or when it is going to return to you. This takes a reprogramming of your mind, right? It doesn't mean being foolish with your resources. It means operating from a consciousness of abundance rather than scarcity. So when you give from abundance, you create a vacuum that the universe must fill. Most people, they're trapped in what he calls scarcity consciousness. They focus all the time on what they lack rather than what they have. They compete instead of create. They try to get instead of give. But here's what's fascinating, okay? These are universal laws. When you operate from scarcity consciousness, you actually repel supply. You become like a magnet with the wrong polarity. The very thing you're trying to attract literally gets pushed away. So he explains that the universe responds to your dominant mental attitude. If you're constantly worried about money, about not having enough, the universe says your wish is my command and gives you more experiences of not having enough. Crazy how that works, right? So it definitely takes a reprogramming of your mind. Here's some practical steps to activate the law of supply, all right? Because we want to know how we actually put this into practice, how we really apply this law in our lives. So first, you want to change your supply consciousness. So instead of thinking I can't afford it, start thinking I choose not to buy this right now. See the difference? It's a big difference, right? One comes from lack, the other comes from choice and power. Second, practice gratitude for what you have, for your current supply. Before asking for more, acknowledge what you already have. He says that gratitude is like tuning your radio to the frequency of abundance. Third is give without attachment. Find ways to give your time, your talents, your money, without expecting anything specific in return. What this does is it opens the channels for supply to actually flow to you. And then fourth, expand your vision. Most people think too small. You know, the universe has no limits. God has no limits. So why should you? Dream bigger. Take action towards those dreams. All the time, putting these philosophies into practice, right? So think about this, the concept of demonstration. So the process of proving to yourself that the law of supply actually works. Start small. Need a parking space? Need a parking space, for example? Demonstrate that supply provides you what you need. Need a solution to a problem? Demonstrate that God has the answer and He's going to give it to you. As you prove to yourself that supply works in small things, what happens is your faith and your confidence starts to grow, and this allows you to demonstrate bigger and bigger things in your life. Okay? Now, abundance mindset in action. All right? What he does in the book, in this chapter, is he shares several real life examples of people who have actually transformed their lives by applying this law of supply. There's a story of a woman who is facing eviction, but instead of panicking, she began giving what little she had to others in need. And within days, unexpected money came to her from multiple sources. Another example is a businessman who was really struggling financially. So instead of cutting back on everything, he started tithing, giving 10% of his income to help others. His business turned around within months. So the key principle here is that you cannot solve a supply problem by thinking about supply. You solve it by connecting with the source of all supply and allowing that to flow through you. You know, abundance is truly our natural state. We were born into a universe of infinite supply. Scarcity is learned. It's not natural. Kids don't worry about supply until adults teach them to, right? The law of supply is not about getting more stuff. It's about recognizing that you already have access to everything you need to fulfill your purpose and live a meaningful and abundant life. That's a big, big difference, right? Now, here's your challenge for this week, okay? For the next 7 days, I want you just to practice thinking and acting from abundance instead of scarcity. When you catch yourself thinking, I can't afford it, or there's not enough, immediately shift your thoughts to either how can I afford it, or once again, I choose not to move forward on this purchase right now, or what opportunities am I not seeing? Also, find one way to give this week, whether it's your time, your money, or your talents. Give without any attachment at all to how it's going to return to you. That is chapter 3 of Raymond Holliwell's Working with the Law and the Law of Supply. I hope you found some great value out of this. You know, these are really strong universal principles. If so, once again, hit that subscribe button. I will see you in the next video. Remember, I am all about building business, building higher levels of success for me, for my team. If you're interested in learning more about that, reach out to me and comment below. See you in the next video.